So Naomi Tickle is the leading face reading expert, international speaker, and career consultant. She is the author of What Makes People Tick and Why. She has appeared on CNN, NBC, BBC, Good Morning America, and numerous television radio interviews around the world. Her book is used as a tool for communications, understanding children, relationships, team building, sales, career guidance, and personal development. Naomi has given workshops and lectures at colleges and universities in the US and England, also AT&T, IBM, NSA, kinesiology conferences in the US and in the UK, plus many of the financial businesses. She works with clients worldwide, helping them find their career path and in improving relationships. With that, I want to introduce you to Naomi. So Naomi, please take it from here.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Yes, I'm sure that there's some of you who are thinking, oh, come on, reading faces, do you really believe in this stuff? And I remember several years ago, or many years ago, actually, I came across it and I thought, oh, come on, this is so Californian, I'm not going to believe in this. Anyway, I decided to go down and have an assessment. I was blown away by the accuracy. It was all based on the structure of the face. We can see many of the traits at the time of birth, like reading, writing, music, design, the artist, the designer, details, the perfectionist, and many more. And once the child has passed puberty, all these traits are fully formed. And so they're not developed over time, they're already in your DNA. So this system was started by Edward Jones. He was a judge in the Los Angeles Court District back in the 1940s. And whilst he was in court, he noticed a strong correlation between the structure of the face and personality. And he became so intrigued by this that he and a team of men researched their findings on just over 10,000 people. And they came up with 68 traits with an 88% accuracy. And it goes across all cultures. There isn't any one trait linked to any one culture. And you see in the Asian culture, African culture, it all indicates the same. And it's been an amazing journey. And then more research was conducted by Robert Whiteside, who used to work with Edward Jones from the 1950s to the 70s. And he came up with more traits. And today I work with about 91 different traits. And my youngest client's been about 2 and the oldest one in the 90s. And it's just been amazing. We're talking about stories of how this has affected people. And I remember working with someone in London, and she wanted to have a career assessment. And I told her that she should have been in psychology. Actually, she was at the time a policewoman. And she just burst into tears. She said, "You don't know what you've done. You've just turned my life around." And she said, "It's something I've always wanted to do. My father wouldn't pay for me to go to college because he said I had to be a policewoman." Anyway, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some of the traits and so that you can identify them. Now, a lot of these traits are measured. And so this is it's not just either this or that. There are degrees of each trait, but we're going to just work with the opposites today so that it helps you to start understanding this. And I should warn you all, faces will never look the same again. You may be in a grocery store or in a post office, something, and you start staring at the faces and you begin to see the patterns. And it's truly fascinating. When I was a young child living in England, I noticed the gypsies and their distinct facial features they had from other people in England. And I was so fascinated. So I've always been interested or fascinated by face pattern recognition. There's some connection. But I like this because it's more of an empirical science. It's called Personology. And anyway, so let's start looking at some of these traits. So here are some of the it's all the studies and the research and applications in business, coaching, sales training programs, career. That's what I do mostly today is I use it for career assessments. I actually did some research with a career coach, not career coach, career person. She and we did it from photographs. And she said that this was more accurate in a lot of the tests than like Myers-Briggs disc and all those many other tests. She said it's far more accurate. And the person we studied with said that it really helped her a lot. So it's not an imaginary thing. It really does change things. It's the human design is fascinating, and hardly anything has been done with this. So those are the applications. And then, so the first one we're going to look at is the level of tolerance. And we're looking at the eyes, the spacing of the eyes. When the eyes are close together, and we actually measure the eye from here to here, and from there to there. So from, and look to see, is the eye wider than the space between, or is it smaller than the space between? So people with close set eyes are very good with detail. They notice every little detail. You often see them in teaching, accounting, in the medical field, very, very focused on detail. And, when I hire people to work for me in some way or form, I really look closely at their face. And then the wide set eyes, these people are more the multitasker. Oh, I can do this and this and this and this, and they get a little scattered. And oh, I can do one more thing, and often end up being late because they want to take on one more thing, but they're much more laid back. Whereas people with close set eyes can get very intense. It's like they're the worriers, and it's like, they've got a narrow face as well. They worry more. Whereas the people with wide set eyes and a wide face, they're much more relaxed. So let's just look at the photograph. So you see here we have the close set eyes, and notice where her eyes are a little bit about the same width as the space between the eyes, and then the wide set eyed person. So here we have the difference. And yes, there are degrees of this trait. If your parents one happens to have close set eyes and the other one will have wide set eyes, then the chances are that their child will have one side of their face, the eye will be closer to the center of the nose, and the other side of the face, it will be wider. And so they'll have a swing in tolerance. And most part, they can be very tolerant, and suddenly they go, and to say, if they have a narrow face, they can worry about things till it's bigger than life. So what you want to do is, when you're working with those people, get them to relax. And say, look, I know this is new for you, but here's how I think we can work together on this. And once you feel comfortable, you can take on the project. That helps to go to the why and understand each other. And it's fascinating. Trying to think of, most of your leaders will have the wider set eyes, such as Donald Trump has these very wide set eyes, and definitely the multitasker. Whereas Biden has fairly wide set eyes. He's not quite as laid back as perhaps Trump is, laid back being more relaxed. So that's the close and the wide set eyes. Do we have any questions there from anyone? Nope. Okay. All right, we'll go to the next one. Whoops. Sorry. Now we're going to look at the perfectionist trait. And do you notice how the sketch, or the person on the right, on your right, the lower corner of the eye is lower than the inner corner. You can see how it slopes down, it goes down. That's the perfectionist. That's the person who sees mistakes that other people miss, and they wonder why they miss them. And so they can come across as being very critical. They think they're helping you, but all we hear is the criticism. And I remember talking to this man who came to my workshop, and he had the critical trait. And I said, what was it like growing up with your parents? So I don't want to go there. It was so painful. And I said, well, this could be an impact on your relationship. And he said, yes, I am critical. And he emailed me the next week. He said, I heard myself criticizing my wife for the first time. He said, we now have the best relationship. And, kids growing up, if they're criticized by their parents, it can put their life on hold for years. Never good enough, never good enough. The parents think they're helping them, but they hear the criticism. And that can be very tough. But the gift of this is anything in editing or precision. Like we hired some construction people to redo our deck. And I looked at each one of them carefully to make sure, all the people who applied for the job, and I stared at their faces. And then the one who got the I can't think of the word now. Anyway, they got the agreement. I gave him my book, and he looked at me and he said, "You hired me based on my face shape?" I said, "Yes." And they did a fantastic job. When I was watching, he and all his co-workers had the same trait. Everything was in precision. It was almost painful to watch, but it came out incredible. So it's a good tool to look at someone and say, "Oh yeah, that would be a good match." So that is their gift. The gift is seeing mistakes that other people miss. And let's go to the photograph. It's not. Oh, it's not going down. Okay. There we are. Now, see, now, okay, now look at her face. There's the critical trait, see it particularly in that, as we look at it, it's her left eye. The outer corner is lower than the inner corner. As the other corner on the other side goes up. And you notice the sort of tightness in her mouth. There's a little bit of tightness there. So I think she's gone through a lot of criticism in her time. And also, if you look really closely and look at the inner corner of the eye, and if you were to put a pencil there across from the inner corner to the other inner corner, go straight across, you'll see how as we look at her face, the right eye, the corner is up higher than the inner corner of the left eye as we look at her. And that indicates these people don't follow the path. If the crowd goes one way, they'll go the other. And they come up with different ideas. They're not the same thing as everybody else, and they don't seem to fit in. And it also indicates someone, they tend to be more judgmental. But that inner corner, now you would see this at the time of birth. This isn't something that developed over time. And so they'll come up with new ideas. So if you can, any of you can relate to this, and you're working with a group of people, say, look, here's one way of doing it, which is the usual way, but here's the advantage of doing it this way that I'm thinking about. And it helps people to come over to your side of thinking. So you don't get that resistance as much. It's just explaining the difference, and it's more likely to work. Now, the man, he has the same thing. He has it looks like one eye is definitely lower than the inner corner, and the other eye is slightly, very slightly. So yes, you see, as I say, you see it in editors, you see it in anything that needs precision in computer programming, engineering, just name it. And as I say, when I hire people, I look to see if they have that trait, because I want to know that they're going to do a good job. Now, is it judging, making a judgment on someone? No, it's just the reality. That's how it is. And yes, you do see this in the Asian face. You might think the Asian eyes all go one shape, but you do see the critical trait in the Asian culture. And I was just sort of thinking about Vladimir Putin. There's, you may have noticed how tight his skin is. It's very tight across the face. He likes to run things squeaky clean. And then his ears cup out. And he has to be in control. So now you have somebody who's a control freak and likes to run things squeaky clean. It's my way or no way. And that comes across very clearly. And you see people like, if anyone watches tennis, Rafael Nadal, he has the same features, and everything has to be put into a specific position on the court, but on the side of the court. And he's very particular about that. So when you meet people with that really tight skin, they definitely, like to run things clean. They don't like messy places. It really annoys them. So if you're working with them, you can just say, look, hey, I know this is a bit messy here and needs to be tidied up, but let's just look at what we need to do today. So it's getting them to shift away from what they were looking at and to the possibilities. Any questions there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Naomi. When you say tight skin,
Yes.
isn't that a function of age? When we are young, the skin is tight. Because when I'm looking at the man, I have a hard time seeing the tight skin that you are referring to.
Yeah, it's not so tight on there, but I was thinking that Vladimir Putin, that he has very tight skin, and it is not just in the young. You see it into people who are older. There's a tightness to the skin, and maybe when they get to the 70s or 80s, it might relax a little bit more. But I've seen it in all age groups. So yeah, well, maybe see somebody later who's got the tight skin. Okay. And now we're moving on to the analyst. And we're looking at the eyelids. Do you see? I'll go to the photograph and you see it better. See how his eyelids are covered? He will have question after question after question after question and have 1,000 more questions. Where the person on the left, see her eyelids are exposed? Like Susan, I don't know your last name, but your eyelids are more exposed. So you like people to get to the bottom line. Never mind all the questions, just tell me. And oftentimes people with exposed eyelids, they speak faster. But they want, as they cut to the point, so they'll interrupt you, finish off your sentence for you, or just simply stop listening. So how you work with these people, you say, look, I have a lot of questions to ask you. Can you just bear with me? It's important that we go through this. Or if you're the person with the exposed eyelids, you say to the other person, look, I've only got so much time. Can we just go through the necessary information and then see what time we have left over? It's just that you like you like to get to the bottom line. Now, looking at activities people with the exposed eyelids sometimes get into is the volleyball playing. It's more action. Come on, let's go, let's do it now. And so it's more action driven. I often see this trait in psychologists. I remember being in Heathrow Airport and I was sitting down on this bench, and I looked at this person. I thought, oh, I bet she's a psychologist. And so I said to her, this is what I do. You have the traits of a psychologist. And she looks at me and says, well, that's my profession. That's what I do. And she, how do you know that? You start seeing the patterns. So for a psychologist, they laser in on the situation to see what's going on, and they cut to the chase. So yes, often I see it, like I just worked with a doctor who actually she's retired from being in the medical field. And I told her she had these exposed eyelids. I said, you probably should have worked in the EU department. And she said, yeah, that's what I really wanted to do, but I just wanted to give it a break for a while. And so I gave her some more suggestions, which she was very pleased with. And she said, this is absolutely incredible. But that is the patterns. You start seeing those patterns. So, when I meet people, I often will go up to them and say, well, what do you do? And they just to sort of see if what pattern it connects with them, what features do they have that fit that job. It's not saying if they don't have those traits for a specific job that they can't do it. They have to work harder at doing it. Now, this other man, as I say, he's going to have a lot of questions, lots and lots of questions. And so just be patient. And these are the researchers. And my husband is always asking a ton of questions. And, you know, I see people's their eyes rolling, think, oh, just get to the point. But anyway, that's the eyes that we see there. And then we're going to move, any questions about that? Whoops.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I know that I'm 79 at this point, and I noticed that my eyelids have come down with age. So how do you accommodate the changes of age?
Well, it doesn't make any difference. You're still, the way your brain is wired, you still want people to get to the bottom line, get to the point. It's how this all manifests itself. I have no idea, but as I say, you see this at the day one that you were born, you would have had the exposed eyelids, and if you've and that in that interaction and that need for, they oftentimes people exposed eyelids, as I mentioned, they speak very fast, and you see that all the time, and you know, it's going to be fascinating because it's not only going to help you in the hiring process, but when you're interacting with your clients, like, okay, so going back to the close set eyes, those of you who are in real estate, those clients are going to be a lot more picky than people with wide set eyes. So knowing that ahead of time, it helps you to just point out the things that you know that they're going to bring up. And I remember I working with a store, I gave him my book, What Makes People Tick and Why. And he said that increased my sales significantly, because he said, I suddenly understood my clients and how to address them and how to work with them. And it made a huge difference. Okay, so that's the eyelids. Any other questions? No. Okay. Now we go to the width of the face. I'll go to the photos. Whoops. They have the wide face, and these people have extremely high self-confidence. I can do it, but what's wrong with you? They fake it till they make it, and they love to take on projects and new projects and programs. It doesn't faze them, and especially with the wide set eyes. Whereas the person with a narrow face, if they are approaching something new, there's some anxiety there. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, and if you know, the narrow face and the close set eyes, they're the warriors. And so we're working with these people, say, look, I know this is something new for you. Let's work together until you feel comfortable in taking this on. It takes the anxiety out of learning. And or even if she's a customer in the real estate field, if she's a customer, she's going to be a lot more picky and a lot more anxious about the purchase of buying a new home or whatever it might be than the person with wide face. They're more likely to just take it on and go do it. And oftentimes this narrow face people, like in children, that can be an issue in school if their teachers are pushing too much on them at once. So I find that music in the classroom, it can be in the classroom or when they're studying, is a real relaxant for them. It really helps them to get through that. So yes, there are degrees of each of these traits. Like, so I measure the width of the face compared to the length, and that's how I determine how, or the eyes, the close, the narrow face versus the wide face, and that's how I determine the level of confidence. So not just this or this. There's a degrees of it. Any questions? Nope. Okay, now we have the thinking traits. I'll go to the photos. Now you notice the one on the left, as you look at her forehead, is more straight up and down. These are your step-by-step thinkers. They think things through step by step by step. And they don't like pressure. They don't do well under pressure. Or if you change plans at the last minute, it's like, but you said you're going to do this today. Or in kids in school, exam time, their mind freezes. I was working with this girl in England, and she was in a school for children with disabilities. And her mother brought her to me. And I said, "You have a very bright child." She said, "Well, that's what I thought." And but they put her in a school for disability, that she wasn't very bright. And I said, "Well, this is the issue here. She doesn't do well in exams." And her mother said, "Yes, that's right." I said, "Well, what you need to do is to play music. It helps to relax her." And she went from that school for disability into the mainstream school, and she went to the top of her class. Because what I said to her, everybody with this trait feels just like you. It's not something you learn, it's part of your DNA. And it completely changed her life. Whereas you see the sloped back forehead, which many of you have that on the call, that's more quick to think, quick to react. "Oh, come on, let's go, let's do it now." And they speeded things up, and they react more quickly and say, "What's wrong with you?" And so if they were to say to the other person, "Oh, well, no, we've changed our mind, I want to do this now," they'll freeze up and they'll find the pressure. But it's been, I gathered this information from the people I've worked with. What is it like to have that particular trait, and how do people feel in certain situations? So yes, it's very they can be very creative people. It's nothing to do with intelligence. Now, what's interesting here, you see from the beginning of the ear by the front of the face to the nose, that's a little bit probably shorter than from that's the ear to the back of the head. And people who have more head at the back repeat history. They recall things over and over and over and over again. They have a hard time letting go. Whereas you can see this man on the right, he's got more face in front of his ear than behind. You know, take off that little bit of the hair that he has there. And he's more forward looking, planning for the future, planning ahead. And whereas a person who has that, you know, the reruns things over and over again, and the sequential thinker, that can be really tough, because they find it very difficult to let it go, and they keep bringing up the history. So my suggestion, if any of you can relate to this trait, say, "Okay, there goes my head again. Let's get out for a walk and look upwards and look up. Don't look downwards when you walk, because you can take those thoughts in your head over and over again. And so look upwards and take yourself outside and look for the possibilities rather than internalize it." And it is making a huge difference in people's lives, just knowing this about themselves, because then they feel more normal, and you know, that they were born with this and they can relate to that. Any questions? No. Okay. It's a lot to learn. I know it's a tremendous amount. It took me a few years to get through this, and I mean, we developed a computerized career program that matches up your traits to the careers you can go into, and it's really been a help for people worldwide. And I find it very heartwarming. That's my legacy in life. I want to make a difference to the world and help people find their path and help couples better understand each other. You know, you see today, a lot of people get divorced, and I can look at the couple and say, "Oh, I can see what's coming up." But if they know that about each other, they can adjust themselves. It doesn't affect them. But I can see when a couple are getting married, if they're compatible or not. It's as easy as that. But again, in the business world, it helps you better understand your clients and how to work with them. So if you you meet a client who has that straight up and down forehead, try not to pressure them. Just put some suggestions out there, and and give them time to make it for them to make a decision. And that way, be able to they'll work more easily with you. The communication will be better. And then we're going to the nose. And you see, his nose is more of the Roman-shaped nose. How much does it cost? Is it worth it? Can I get it for less? And they're more the money people. They like to be in management. They like to oversee projects and programs. Whereas if you see the girl there, she has a ski jump nose. We're looking in the middle of the nose. It dips down a little bit. Oh, pay me next time. That's okay. Oh, I'll give you a discount. And they're not about money, and they're not about management. I met this woman who was just setting up her own cafe in the business district. And I thought, oh, this is not going to work. She had the ski jump nose because she has a hard time charging for what she does. And sure enough, 6 months later, the whole thing collapsed. She just wasn't charging the money, and it was the wrong location as well. But these people with the convex nose, and it's nothing to do with it's a Jewish nose or not. It's, you know, we all have, in Scotland, you have these shaped noses. And if you see that their nose goes down at the end, right at the end, if it goes down, these people are your skeptics. Prove it to me. Show me that it works. And it, you know, you see, and so it makes it easier to communicate with these people because you know where they're coming from. Whereas her nose goes upwards. And oh, I believe you. I believe you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. I trust you. And with all the scam that's going on today, you have to be very careful because otherwise, you know, you can fall into have some big problems there. But anyway, so that's the nose. Again, there's the nose that is more straight. When it's more straight, as you look at from the side profile, these people are good at management and also good at working with clients. They have the degree of both traits, but they're still very much in management. Yeah. Any questions?
One of the best known people with that ski jump nose was Bob Hope.
Yes, he did. Yeah, you look at it and you see a lot of those patterns that are out there, and it's amazing. It just helps you to get a better insight to people. You know, just like in sports, if you look at the sports, people playing sports, you'll find the soccer players have short to medium legs. Very few have long legs. Whereas the baseball players, they have medium to long legs, very few with short legs, because it's a more stationary sport. Whereas a short-legged person is go, 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 go. And so next time you go past a soccer game or something, just look at the length of the legs, and you'll be amazed how many people have the short to medium legs versus the baseball players. It's just encouraging your kids to get into a sport that they really enjoy. Okay. Yeah, and then you have the personality traits. We have Ross Kemp and Jennifer Aniston. They're slightly older photos, but you see her face is very narrow, and she has the analytical trait by looks of it. She also has a very short space from the base of her nose to the base of the chin compared to the length of her face. Whereas you look to Ross Kemp, he has the long from the base of the nose to the base of the chin. And he's more restless, has to be on the go. Go, 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 go. You can't give him a desk job and it'll drive him crazy. Yeah, and so those are, yeah, and people with thin lips. They're people with thin lips, like oh, I forgot what his name. Oh, forgot he committed suicide. Anyway, he was very sad, and the thin lips are developed over time. The anger. It pulls the lips in and in and in and in. Now, how are you today? Fine. What are you doing next week? Not much. Whereas people with full lips will talk to the early hours of the morning. So what has happened with the thin lip person, like I spoke to somebody, I worked with somebody who used to live in the coal mining district. And at age 12, he wanted to be a writer. And I can see if someone wants to be a writer by the little lines that are underneath the eyelid. And he said that when he was 12, he wanted to be in a contest, a writing contest. And his family said, who do you think you are? You're not one of them, one of the aristocratic people. And so he was discouraged from writing. He left school at 15. He worked in as a sweeping floors and things like that in the various businesses he was at. And when I met him, I said to him that what came out was writing. But he'd been brought up with his uncle, and his uncle said, "You're no good. Who do you think you are?" And his lips got thinner. The young man, his lips got thinner and thinner and thinner. And I said, "You have a gift to write a book." Since that time, he has written and published about 40 books. It completely turned his life around. So this is a system that could help so many people in many different areas of life. But particularly what I enjoy is working for people who are searching for a career, what career to do. Now, a lot of us leave school and 65% of them still don't know what to do. And I've worked with Stanford University students. They said, "Oh my gosh, I only wish we had heard about your work earlier. You would have saved us a ton of money and time." And it simply connects the dot. I do not do intuitive readings. I don't believe in them. I like the science of this. And it's reliable. And that's what I use. So that's just introducing you to some of the traits. And does anyone have any questions?
Sure. So how does this apply? I mean, I can sort of see how this might apply to the acting profession with the casting directors and when I look through all the headshots and everything. But in the acting profession, you need people with all these different face types to to fill out your cast of various different characters. And
right. Well,
and then sometimes as an actor myself, I've had to play opposite type.
Right.
And play all sorts of different types of people, Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to be biased to the Brits, but I find that the casting, British casting, character casting, is much more expressive, and the way they choose it for the parts.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. They really they almost have an innate sense of how to cut, what they're looking for. They've seen the patterns, but they maybe haven't connected it. I don't know. But they do a really good job at character casting. I remember somebody who was acting, names got slipped my mind. But anyway, it was someone in America where they were acting, and it just didn't fit the part. Oh, Ronald Reagan. It didn't fit the part. It didn't come alive. And and I think also Canada does a pretty good job. We've been watching Heartland, and the characters in that series, it really makes the piece or the part come alive. It feels genuine, and you feel it's almost, oh, these are regular human beings, and yes, they really. Anyway, they do a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's like on the flip side, I remember I saw recently the casting of Galadriel in the Rings of Power series, and she just doesn't fit. She has this very tight, very pinched face that doesn't make me think Galadriel. Whereas I just recently saw some of season 5 of The Crown with Elizabeth Debicki playing Princess Di, and I'm thinking she would have been much better as Galadriel.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, as I say, you'll start to see it after a while. I think how, and especially in the acting field, you could definitely make a difference, I believe, in the appeal that it has to the public and the viewers who come in and watch that. I mean, look at ballet dancers. You wouldn't find a short ballet dancer. They all have long legs. It makes them more elegant.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same with, the human design, as I mentioned, it has not really been looked at. It's pretty amazing, because not only do I do the career consulting, I select prints that are for people for their blouses or shirts or jackets or whatever, and somehow the prints reflect, this is the face is the art piece, and the prints and the things we wear are the framework to the art piece, and it brings it up. It's the same with, when we say, oh, I love that. Oh, you like that? Well, I wouldn't do that. I love it. Why? The brain connects the dots and we see it. And it's truly fascinating. Like when people wear, and I know this is going off track a little bit, when people wear the vertical lines, that's a little bit, particularly men, has a little bit more control. I want to do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. When you see people wearing the horizontal lines, which really looks good on them, or the plaids, they're much more flexible. When you think about it, it makes sense. And it couldn't the person who wears the vertical lines look good in the horizontal lines? No, it wouldn't work out on them. And so, yeah, it's just we could go on and on for hours about this. And if we all got together in a group and went around and walked around and various things, it would be truly fascinating. Now, I would be reading some faces off here, but I cannot see people's faces very well. It's not very clear.
Naomi, would you be kind enough to, I'll try to get close and turn my face. If you don't mind, read my face. Let me know.
I can't see who's speaking.
This is Hedy. I'm going to take my glasses off.
And maybe Naomi, if you change to speaker view, but perhaps we can close the share down. That would make it bigger, Tony, if that's okay.
That's okay.
And then go to speaker view. So Hedy's super big, and then we're all small, either at the top or on the sides.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I gotta deal with a contractor. Oh, this is bad. Wait a minute. I'll hang on. Watch this.
There you are.
Okay. Now, I guess if you go to speaker view, you can see me on large.
I can see you.
But if you want to make it large, if you change the setting on speaker view, if you go on the top right corner of your monitor, it has 9 dots and view to the side of it.
Yeah, there we go. Now, where have you gone to?
So if you go to view and
I take the sun off the screen.
okay, if you click on the view, it gives you an option of speaker or gallery.
Hey, Hedy, why don't we let you guys work on that on your own? We have questions that others.
After the questions, I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Although I think it would be useful for us to see her read a face. So I
can't get the blinds down, so the screen is very blurry.
It's hard for her to read on a screen, I think. So while you're looking at that, I can post Hedy as a spotlight, then you can see Hedy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, let me get my glasses off. And let me know when you want me to turn my face.
I gotta get this blind down.
It's probably not a good opportunity to see much with the screen. So, and don't move, Hedy.
No. I'm trying to get the shadows.
Looks like you need some sleep.
Can't get it down. What can I do?
Anastasia, while they're working on that, you had a question that maybe.
I did, but I don't know that she can hear it because she took her headphones off.
Okay.
Oh, that's better. Okay. Okay. Oops. Oh. getting there. All right. Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, you're more forward thinking, but you're a lot more forward thinking. You look ahead, plan ahead. A little bit of a perfectionist. So your right eye is corner of your eye is slightly lower than the inner corner. So one of your parents was much more of a perfectionist than the other, or critical. But as I mentioned earlier, very much the design, the eyebrows, seeing the design as something and bringing it together is something you enjoy doing. I see you as being very competitive, and your head at the back here is wider than the front. And no, you have to face me full on face. And that's someone who's more competitive. Now you've got these wide set eyes, but interesting, you formed these mounds above your eyebrows. So you check and recheck and recheck. And I think that's the critical side of you, is checking and checking. That's what forms. Those are formed. They're not something you're born with. They're formed because you keep scrunching your eyebrows together and check and check. Yes, and you're very analytical. Have a lot of questions to ask, but and good concentration. So it's the shape of your forehead up here. It goes out a little bit, and so good concentration. Yeah, you probably enjoy music, and but you're an information person. You like people, but you love information. Information. Put your hands up like this. Okay, fingers together. Yeah, I think you're a calculated risk taker. I don't see you as a high risk taker, but yeah, and you're close to people. You like to reach out to people, very much so. Yeah, you put your hands down. Okay. Yeah, it's so yes, we put, as I say, we put all these information and put it into a computer program. As I said earlier, that you'd definitely be in the design field, engineering, construction.
No, you're very close. I'm an engineer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and it's something you'll see in a lot of engineers and computer programmers, construction workers, photographers. Often see that in photographers, or if people have their eyebrows are level like this, these are oftentimes your artists. They have a feel of how things flow together. And I remember seeing this young man in the store, and he's in a wheelchair, and he had the eyebrows like this, and he had the critical trait. And I thought, I bet he'd be good at documentary films. So I went up to him. I said, what do you plan to do when you leave school? And he's about 16, 17. He said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you might want to think about taking up documentary films. And his mother, who's standing by him, said, I can't believe you're saying that. She said, next week he picks up the top award for the best documentary film in school. And he raised his thumbs and said, yes, I love that. So when I see people who are in situations where I find it's more limiting, I will go up and speak to them. Like this black guy who I saw, he was just, I forgot what you call him, but anyway, they carrying suitcases in to the hotel for the customers. And I saw, yes, yeah, that's right, yeah. And I saw that he had the lines, these little lines, just starting from the inner corner and going under the eye. I thought, he has a gift to write. I have to share this with him. So I went up to him and told him. He put his arms around me, gave me this great big hug. He said, that's something I've always wanted to do. And his friends are looking at him in sort of astonishment. He's hugging this lady. But it's, yes, that's what I want to do. So I've had some incredible feedback, and it's just helping people not only get back on track with their life, but understanding each other better. You'll find yourselves, all of you, you'll find yourselves thinking, oh, I got it. It takes a while, but after a while, it'll come automatically like that. As I say, it's about 91 traits that I look at, and pretty amazing. Any other questions?
Anastasia, you had a question.
Yes. So first off, thank you. This has been fascinating. I love learning this kind of stuff. And I'm curious about, the work that you do. Can people send you photographs, or
Yes.
you do a Zoom, like if I want to know what my 3 granddaughters, their traits are while their faces are still, pristine and not marred by life. It would make a difference in how we view them. And so how do you do that work? And then the second question is, I'm just curious about this idea. Now, you had said that if things change, okay, like the Botox of the world or whatever, you're still, or even with aging, the core part of it is there. So
Yeah.
I recently learned about this book, If I Had Your Face, and it's stories about South Korean women that are completely changing their faces, not a little bit of plastic surgery. It is
Yeah.
a completely, like, Mission Impossible difference between before and after, which breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
Yeah.
So those women, it's so radically changing. I can see how their core is still going to be what they were born with.
That's right.
But then if somebody were to learn this, they would misread them, right?
It's possible, but you can tell when people have had cosmetic changes. And I asked to see photographs of them before they had those cosmetic changes.
Right. I'm just talking about us in general. Like if we learn this and we see someone and they've got a different face on, that would mislead us. Thankfully, that's probably not the case with most people we're up against, but I'm fascinated by that. So back to the question about how you work. If any of us want to, have diagnosis, if you will, not diagnosis, but you know what I mean. Assessment, thank you. For ourselves or family, friends, etc. How do you work with that?
Well, I do it now with photographs, and people send me one full face photo, one of each side profile, and one of their hands with the palms facing the camera.
Okay.
And then they have to have their forehead and ears completely exposed, so I can see, that I can measure it. And and we do is we get a list of careers, we get a Zoom call for about an hour and going through the career program, and it's been, for me, it's been amazing. It's just something I really enjoy doing, and it's meeting people from all over the world. It's great.
Beautiful.
And it's changing people's lives.
Yeah.
And that to me is
I love the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudette, you have a question? And then Lauren. Claudette, you're on mute.
Yes. I'm definitely going to get both of your books. And I'm interested in what the focus is of each of them, because which one would I be better off reading first?
What makes people tick and why?
What makes
people tick and why? And that has all of the traits in it, and more information. I decided to publish a book with more traits because it needs to get out to the world, more people to find out about this work, and hopefully I don't think there's anyone who does the career assessments in the world. I think I'm the only one left doing it. But I have a student from England now. He's studying with me, so that would be good.
I have to tell you, this is a fascinating subject, and I thought you delivered it very, very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lauren Ward, you had a question?
Yeah, I have two questions. First, I'm wondering how your techniques vary given people's ethnic ancestry. For example, if someone had a lot of Mongolian blood, they're going to have a broad, flat face.
Not necessarily. We put people in that box, but they don't. There are all of these traits in all cultures.
I'm sorry, but I've traveled in Mongolia, and I can tell you that people of Mongolian ancestry have a very broad, flat face.
Okay.
Yeah, second question I want to ask you is, when I think about the people errors that I have made in the past, the ones that are most painful to me and have been the most expensive, I might add, have been errors where I misjudged people's character.
Right.
For example, a partner who ends up stealing $500,000 from you. So can you speak to whether or not you have any techniques that would apply to those kinds of judgments?
No, there aren't. I went into San Quentin prison to give a talk to the warden and the people working there. And it was really very interesting because I noticed that a lot of them had the same traits, and which was they're indifferent to people suffering, which helps them to manage that job. It's not that's not in criticism of them, but they can handle the job. So no matter where you are in the world, it's like produces like you know, when in England, if you go to Scotland, there's a certain trait up there, and you go down to the south of England, it's different. So, but now with all the cultures intermixing, it's changing things a little bit, but it doesn't change the traits. But you see more blends of different traits. So in Mongolia, there will be a certain pattern there, like, you know, and I've noticed it in, this may sound strange, but the reds that people wear that looks good on them, they're often more dominant in one country than another country. And I can almost tell which country their ethnicity is from just by the color, because it's the color of the skin. So like produces like, the same with the face reading and or personology, as I would say it, because this is unlike any face reading system or whatever it has out there. This is a lot more accurate. And yeah, that's you know, the people, the Aborigines, like you'll find a lot of them have a ski jump nose. They're very gentle people, extremely gentle people, and there's that tendency to help, and yet they've been so abused, unfortunately. I don't think it's as much now, but they were in the past by the British. So yeah, but you start seeing the patterns, and when people have a long lip, long upper lip from here to here, these people have a very dry sense of humor. You don't always get their jokes, and they also can be very sarcastic. Well, I find a lot of English people, hate to say that, have that trait, but like produces like. And so next time you see, oh, I know, what's his name? Is it McDonald, the American politician. If you look at his top lip, under lip, you see how long that lip is, and his lips have turned down. So that's habit. It's like never happened, and they keep doing that. The negative, that means that, you know, it's a habit. That's not an inherited trait. But the long lip, upper lip, or the philtrum from here to here, that's inherited. And, you know, just test it out. Say, do you have English heritage or Irish? And you'll be amazed at how many people say, how do you know that? They get a little freaked out at times.
Cool. All right. Any other questions? It's 9 o'clock, and we don't want to keep Naomi too much on hold. And then I also have to leave, and then Susan, Roanne, and Hetty. Bill, you can.
Quick question for you, Naomi. Very good presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Have you worked with law enforcement on this approach of yours to, you know, personality assessment?
No, I haven't, but I'll tell you a funny story. I am driving to a store, and I get out, and I see the police are behind me, lights flashing, and they said, "Don't you know why I stopped you? I've been following you for 2 miles." I said, "No, I didn't see you. I was giving you a workshop on face reading." I said, "For instance, you've got these close-set eyes and cut out ears, and you like to be in control of everything, and you're very critical." He looks at me, hands me back my driver's license. "Put your seatbelt back next time." Or on next time. So I've got rid of a few tickets that way. But it would be a good, excellent tool for the police force. It would give them some more information on how to approach people.
I can see you before the audience in the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia.
Yeah, yeah. It really makes a difference. And for instance, if somebody has a thumb is up to the first notch on the index finger, if it comes right up to there, these are people who have explosive energy. I work with this 17-year-old boy who's beating people up at school, beating up the walls, and doing all sorts of other things, and drugs and stuff. And his grandmother brought him into me. And I said to him, you know, you're a very bright individual. When he was about to drop out, being kicked out of school and no good and not doing very well. And I said, you have a very bright individual, but you can go this way in life or you can go that way. I said, you can either end up in jail or you go to prison. And I explained to him that everybody with the trait of a long thumb, everybody who has this trait feels exactly like you do. And it oftentimes comes down from the male side of the family. After he'd been working with a psychologist to help him get through this, after he met with me, he completely turned his life around, went to university, and he's doing really well. He still has those moments of explosion. It doesn't get rid of them because they're in, but his choice supersedes structure.
Interestingly, the composer Maurice Ravel was known to have unusually long thumbs.
Yeah.
And then, well, then you look at his piano music, which is both very lush, but very, you know, just the amount of energy.
Yeah.
that even below the surface, even in quiet movements, is just insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording now.